Okay. I will now take some questions.
Does it take place in Oversight?
Uh, I don't know. I don't think I've answered this with any specificity out there yet, and many people are asking it to me. Um, Oversight is a fantasy setting I've developed through different comics since 2006. I understand the disappointment some of you might feel right now to hear that I'm directing my focus towards something that is not that. It might feel like I'm dissipating momentum or abandoning a lot of stuff that I've built. I am struck by how many people are asking me this question and how many of them seem to expect I'm going to keep working with Overside. Please trust me when I say that there is more potential energy in the direction I'm going. This story concerns an entire world in a way that I haven't really attempted before, and I would be extremely limited in what I could do with it if I was beholden to a bunch of setting principles I came up with when I was practically a child. It is exciting to be building something from scratch again. The thing is, Oversight is just a collection of premises I built up according to what I was interested in. It doesn't exist outside of my creative tendencies and interests. I'm still here. I'm earnestly trying to double down on a lot of those same tendencies in a way that I think is smarter and more self-aware than when I started Rice Boy, when I was, again, practically a child. Generally, I want to advocate for understanding that the reasons you like a piece of media are because of the human decisions that go into it. There isn't anything outside of those decisions. It's just kind of a shell outside of those decisions. In something that's been put together by just one person, I think that's even more pronounced. So, as much fun as it would be to have the robot guy show up as a kind of intertextual punchline, I want to tell you that I'm in a very real way building on Overside, and the same person will be going into this that went into Overside, but this is a new thing. There's a different robot guy in this one.
What's this about the Patreon?
I've had a Patreon for several years. I really love it. I think I don't talk enough about how much I love having that place to share a bunch of extra material and how much I appreciate people's support and interest there. I do. I have generated a huge amount of development art for Third Voice that's up there now, and much of it will probably never be seen anywhere else. And there's a backlog of some probably thousands of other posts pertaining to Vatu and the Island Book series and all the other stuff I've been doing. With the Third Voice launch, I am going to reformat the Patreon slightly. There is no $1 reward tier anymore, though people can pay monthly whatever amount they like, of course. So the big main thing now is the $2 a month tier. That will include early pages in some more structured way than I have done it before, development work, sketchbook stuff, etc., and access to that backlog. I'm pretty meticulous about avoiding any narrative stuff, any like upcoming things or anything too spoilery. That's important to me. But there's a lot of stuff there, and there will be more. It feels worth it to me if you're looking at it as paying for content instead of just paying in support of the comic. But really look at it however you like. The $5 tier is a big new thing. It includes naturally access to the $2 stuff and also access to a live stream at least once a month starting in January 2023. These will mostly be live drawing and coloring and Q&As or talking or whatever I come up with. But I want to leave it open to do some different things in the future with this somewhat exclusive little space. Streams will be recorded and available to patrons after the fact too. In the past, I've really liked doing live streams, but it's been a while, and I like having little focused spaces like that with readers. So let's do it.
Will Third Voice be in print?
I'm aware that I've established a kind of precedent here. I make big graphic novel-y comic books, and I take pre-orders to in order to fund the nicest and most straightforward print versions of them that I can manage as a mostly self-publisher. I don't know what the plan is for Third Voice, however. I love designing books. I love keeping print in mind. I love having books, but keeping multiple books in a series in print as a self-publisher is difficult as things stand now. This is going to be a big overcommitted genre story that is, I think, somewhat flashier and more, pitchable, pop cultural than Vaatu was, but still, it's probably not the sort of thing that'll fit into the print comics publishing world as it stands now. That doesn't mean that it won't exist in print. It's just I don't know how to wrap my head around making it make the most possible sense. I am sensitive to the sort of reader of mine who says that they only read comics in print, that comics are better in print, etc. A lot of people tell me this when they buy a book from me. Sometimes often I am that kind of person too. But I have to, for now, prioritize a little more the distribution method that will get this thing immediately and for free in front of a theoretically infinite number of eyeballs.
What's this about Spondul and Navichet?
I thought of them in middle 2020, and you may have seen them before. I had a clear and immediate picture of them in my head while, in fact, biking, and I have sort of trained myself to stick to such clear and immediate pictures. The character Vaatu started out that way, and a bunch of stuff in Rice Boy, and basically the whole architecture of my shortly upcoming book, Last Delivery. Anyway, I developed a pretty clear image of Spondul and Navichet as people, and I have written and not had the opportunity to materialize literally several entire graphic novels about them. I feel like I know them very well. I know where they come from and how they fit into the world they're in. I know them better than I ever know anybody before starting to actually make the comic that they're in. I am excited to try to articulate their personalities out loud finally.
Why are you doing it like this?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to make something that fits into the industry as it is now. I know how to make this, and I think I can make it a productive next step in a career. I think I can, do it well, take it seriously. I think I can build a bigger audience around it. I have no connection to the publicity channels that seem to exist out there for pop cultural objects like this. So I just have to make the thing as well as I can and make noise about it in the ways that I personally have control over, like these videos, and bend all of the different content platforms to my will as much as I am able, etc. I don't know what the move is. I have thought about this a lot. Other than, get into the animation industry or make more books that publishers want. No shade on either of those trajectories, of course. I just feel like I've kind of boxed myself in with this ridiculous focus I've maintained on these projects. And this is the way forward that allows that boxing in to not feel miserable and claustrophobic. Patreon provides a more direct and low intensity means of supporting it, so that's what I'm trying to emphasize now. This is what I can do. I'm committed. I live very cheap. There's not many expenses associated with making this sort of thing. Making comics doesn't have to go much better than it's been going for me to keep doing it. In fact, it could go significantly worse. I probably should not say that out loud.
What's the music?
My brother Lewis is a musician in a lot of different ways and directions. In 2019, he made a soundtrack to my graphic novel Island Book, about an hour of music connecting to the themes and narrative of that book really well, I think. I really liked it. I got excited about that, about a comic sounding like something, occupying more space that way, and implying a reality in between and beyond the two different mediums. Lewis has an interest in a lot of old technologies and kind of obsolete formats and techniques, as I understand it, and I don't. And that's aesthetically very interesting to me and very in line with what I think I'm doing, and very in line also with some of the things that Third Voice is about. I hired him to make the music for the pitch video and the teaser from a couple months ago. I would like to hire him to do more. I would like maybe to hire other musicians too. The dream is to have a constantly building sort of rolling soundtrack to the comic available. We will see.
Should I just wait for Third Voice to be done to read it?
I have avoided saying how long this thing will take to make because I don't know. When I started Vatu, a lot of people said they'd wait for it to be done. Maybe they did, but it took years longer than I would have guessed, and there was a lot more of it than I thought there would be. I don't feel like I can tell anybody how they should or shouldn't engage with things that I make, but yes, I'm trying to take serialization more seriously and make something that holds together as a large, self-contained story, but also lives as an active, in-process thing. A big, cascading, mysterious structure that we're all in together at the same time in an ongoing way. I want to encourage people to see this as a thing to keep up with, check in on, appreciate as an ongoing process for the window of time in which it is that. Some ways I intend to encourage that are, first, weekly updates of a slightly more digestible, self-contained mode than the individual tiny pages one at a time model. 2, the aforementioned soundtrack, and more broadly, a kind of multimedia presence for this thing. It's still a comic, and it's still one still picture after another, but it has a sound and it moves in my head, and I'd like to have that be a present thing to the best of my ability and my capacity to hire people to help with that. 3, a letter column. This has already launched and will continue apace with the comic updates. It's modeled on letter columns in serialized comic books of decades past, and provides some small place where bigger and denser talking in a somewhat time-delayed fashion can exist around the comic. The lack of that sort of thing has been hitting me lately, what with social media and all. But yeah, it's a little kind of experiment thing. Who knows if that'll stick or if people are interested in that. And 4, a Discord. I don't know really how Discord works still, but I have started one for Third Voice. There's some hundreds of people in there already for a comic that does not exist yet as I write this. Pretty cool. I'm going to be on it here and there, but I would like to kind of think of it not as my space. But I invite you to join. In the capacity in which it is my space, I am inviting you to join it. Okay, so I think that's all that I can think to say here. The last time I started something like this and brought it before the public internet was Vatu. It was 2010. I was 22 years old. Everything was different. I believe in what I'm doing now just as hard. I know what I'm doing a lot better. So let's go. My understanding of pop culture is that things exist because they're materially able to exist. There is no art free from some sort of compromise with material conditions. No matter how pure and beautiful and uncompromising the vision, you can only devote a huge amount of time to something if you can support yourself doing it or independently of doing it. And in order to support yourself doing creative work, the shape that work takes has to fit into the industrial peculiarities of the moment. So you could say maybe that no work really exists outside of its moment. Comics, because they're so cheap and light on their feet, have been really volatile in this regard over the century or so that they've existed, as I see them in a shape consistent with what they are now. The invention of the modern comic book opens up a new space for storytelling unimaginable for newspaper cartoonists. The invention of the direct market comic book shop opens up another new space in which serialized stories can build up a greater complexity and depend on an audience to be able to keep up. The invention of the graphic novel, or call it what you like, opens up another space. The increased awareness of other countries' comics industries opens up another space for Anglosphere comics. The webcomic opens up another space. And maybe one of the bigger recent ones that I'm aware of, the recent boom in the big English language book publishers spending money on graphic novel imprints opens up another space. Pop culture seems to be a succession of openings up and clampings down. I guess I have thought that in theory for a while now, but I've been around long enough to kind of see it happen over the course of my life in a few different ways. The internet has been maybe the biggest parable of this process in the lives of most people around my age. It was open. It had much fewer people on it, and then corporate social media emerged, and it became a shopping mall, and now everyone's there, and that's what the internet is for most people. Okay. I've been thinking, obviously, for a while about what I would do after Vaatu, the webcomic graphic novel I made from 2010 to September 2022. I've done a few books with publishers over the years, and I felt good about those processes, and the advances have been good. And there's an image of my future trajectory where I double down on that and try to appeal to that specific world and those editorial tastes. But it is feeling, and it's hard to get too specific around this, like that world is kind of clamping down too. As much as individuals in publishing really do have the vision and believe in creator freedom and in the potential of the medium, these are big institutions that are incentivized in the same ways the rest of the economy is incentivized. And it is seeming kind of unlikely from here that the sort of thing I'm able to do and interested in doing in comics is going to line up with that world, the big books and comics publishing world, as it did momentarily and qualifiedly with the Island book series. It feels kind of like a bubble is ending. Iron Circus Comics is the smaller publisher I have experience with, you may know. And while, yes, it's of course incentivized in the same ways too, it being so small and there being such a tiny number of people who are involved in the decisions there, it seems like a categorically different thing to me. Comparatively small, you know. I am trying to look backwards and forwards at the same time. Put a pin in that. Is the webcomics model of 2006 feasible? where you make your own website and everybody's websites of their own link to each other, generating an organic community of people into webcomics. Emphatically, no, it is not feasible. Now everybody's internet is the internet of platforms, most of which are organized by black box algorithms that usually actively disrupt organic discovery of the sort that built the entire webcomic scene of olden days, of the sort really that built any independent arts community in history. I almost want to go so far as to say. So I am going to publish Third Voice on my own little website, as I've been doing for years. And I've been making some changes in how that space works. It's a somewhat denser, more interesting, and shinier space than it once was. And I encourage you to look through it and see what you find. But that isn't enough, of course. So I'm going to put it also on Webtoon and every page on designated accounts on Twitter and Instagram and whatever else emerges. Who cares? That's where people are, and I want them to see the thing. Reading almost any comic on Instagram, for example, strikes me as a monumentally unpleasant experience, but it's where people are, and you can always read it on the website that I have designed specifically to make reading it a more ergonomic process instead, if you like. And I mean what I said in the other video about this being a moment of historically new possibility for the medium. Making long-format comics outside of the formal and commercial limitations of serialization schedules and magazine distribution networks and book production offers an enormous new potential for storytelling within the medium that I really don't think we've wrapped our heads around yet. It's not a given that something like Vaatu or Skin Deep or Gunnerkrigg Court or Sorcery 101 or Templar Arizona or Beyond the Western Deep, or Kill 6 Billion Demons should exist. It couldn't have been predicted that comics would be free enough from the limitations of print production and distribution to allow for them to exist. So, in a way, Scott McCloud was right when he talked about the infinite canvas as a signal innovation provided to comics by the internet. He was just talking kind of along a different axis than what I'm talking about here. Page dimension instead of number of pages, scale of story. The infinite canvas provided to us now is the capacity to make a, for instance, 1,000-page comic book and have people actually see it and read it and know that it exists. So, suffice to say, in retrospect, a lot of the skills I've been developing since Rice Boy, when I was 18, have not been generalizable storytelling skills, but skills to allow for production of long-form comic books within a very narrow moment in history in a very specific publication form. I don't know if we are still in that moment, or if I'm still sort of grandfathered into that moment, but I am holding on to that moment for dear fucking life.